I'm Daniela Cartwright. I'm 21 years old. I don't think it's important that you know my age, but anyway, I don't actually have a vlog. I'm not a vlogger and I wouldn't want to be one, but I just decided to make this video to share a story that happened to me a long time ago. Just a few people know it. It happened about 16 years ago, when I was really young. I was 5 years old and we were on the very last day of the year of 1999. And I remember hearing a lot of stories about the last day of that year, and because we were going to another millennium and I didn't know what it was all about, but I did fear that day. And I remember one of my friends used to take the Bible and read it to me. I didn't know how to read yet, or I knew a little bit, but she would read the Bible like in Apocalypse and say to me that those things that were written there were going to happen on the last day of that year, 1999. Well, like I used to do every new year of my life since I was born, I went to my grandma's house. I remember we were all going to dress up like really pretty dresses and really pretty clothes and make a party because it was the new year and it was the new millennium, and it was a huge celebration and it was a very important day. My aunt, she told me she would go to the hair salon to cut her hair, and I wanted to go with her. So I asked her, can I go with you? I want to cut my hair too. And she said, okay, and ask your mom and I'll bring you with me. We left the house and I asked her, where is the hair salon? And she said, it's right across the street, close to that white wall. And I saw a very large white wall that circled something, and I was really tiny, so I didn't know what it was. And when we crossed the street, I looked at it and I asked my aunt, like, what is this? And she said, well, it's a cemetery. And the cemetery was right in front of my grandma's house. And as a 5-year-old, I was really scared of cemeteries. So I remember passing by it and thinking there were a lot of bodies buried there and, you know, maybe a lot of ghosts, and I was freaking scared. I cannot remember what happened on the hair salon. I cannot remember if I did cut my hair. I just remember that when we came back, I would go to the window and I would just be staring at the cemetery and thinking, why the heck there's a cemetery right in the front of my grandma's house? I want to go back home and I don't want to ever come back here. And there's nothing to do with the cemetery actually, but I remember there was this portrait on my grandma's wall right in the kitchen of a painting of Leonardo da Vinci, and it's I can't say it, I don't remember the name in English, but there's Jesus and all his people. Apostles. So there was this painting with Jesus and all his apostles, and I just remember I looked at the painting and I could relate it to the cemetery. I don't really know why, but when I went to the kitchen, far away from the cemetery, and I looked at the picture, I could know that the cemetery was there. So I remember going back home and I couldn't forget the story. I would just remember when I go back to my grandma's house, I will see the cemetery again and I'll have to go back. I can just tell my parents that I'm scared. I wouldn't want them to know I was scared, and I was really scared. So when we went back there on the next year, after a whole year, guess what I found? Instead of the white wall, instead of the cemetery, there was this big antenna. It wasn't the exact spot of the cemetery, but it was right in front of it, except that closer to my grandma's house. And I looked at it and was like, how did they build it so fast? And where's the cemetery? On a place that the cemetery used to be located, according to my mind and according to what I remember, instead of the cemetery, it was a regular house and lots of other houses. And I just couldn't understand it. So I went to my aunt, that same aunt that went with me to the saloon, and I asked her why they removed the cemetery. And she was like, what are you talking about? Like, the cemetery, why isn't the cemetery here anymore? And how did they just take it away? And she just looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, you told me that that white wall I saw last year was a cemetery. And she looked at me and asked, what white wall? There was never a white wall in here. I was like, what? And I asked everyone. I asked my other aunts, my uncles, my parents, my cousins, and everyone said the same thing. I think you've imagined, I think you've dreamed about it. There was never a cemetery here, or even close. I was really glad that the cemetery wasn't there anymore, but I wanted an explanation, something that I could understand, because they were just saying there was no cemetery, you're wrong, but I can clearly remember what happened that day in the cemetery and the white wall and what I've seen, and my aunt telling me it's a cemetery, and some people just told me when I told them this story, and maybe your aunt just told you to scare you, maybe there wasn't a cemetery, maybe it was something else. But the thing is that if it was or not a cemetery, I saw a wall, and that wall I saw wasn't there anymore. So I remember going to the kitchen and seeing the picture, and the picture was still there. And since that day, I still go there, and the picture is still there, but the cemetery is gone. But when I see the picture, I remember the cemetery, and the picture is somehow what still makes me believe that I actually saw something, that I actually saw the white wall, even that it wasn't a cemetery, but there was a white wall in there, even that everybody tell me I'm wrong.